All right. There we go.
It's time for the Voice of Indie. Your hosts today are Beem, author and producer for Fresh Ink Group, and Stephen Gies, author, producer, composer, and publisher for Fresh Ink Group.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Voice of Indie podcast. This is episode number 235. And like number 4 or 5 of the live video ones. I'm your host, Beem Weeks, and right next to me is Mr. Stephen Gies, Raconteur wannabe. How are you doing, Mr. RW?
I'm just doing nifty keen. We're down here in Alabama where it's actually been cold the past week, but we're getting up into the mid-70s tomorrow, so I'm happy as a clam. I tell you.
Yeah, cold, yeah. I mean, we were below zero for many days, so, you know, what's your cold? Like, oh, I got 35.
Yeah, it's all relative. So we've got a new book out, and it's called Matt's Murder. It's by Patricia A. Guthrie, the author of Eerie Charms and Legacy of Danger and Water Lilies Over My Grave. And we're also working on another book for her, In the Arms of the Enemy. So Matt's Murder by Patricia A. Guthrie is out now.
Yes, it is. The Star Child series by Robert G. Williscroft. All 4 books are out now. And all 4 of them can get there. We've got a new video for this as well, the Star Child Saga. And I'm thinking we'll probably are we playing that tonight?
Yeah,
We're playing that tonight. Brand spanking new video. So
world premiere.
Keep your eyes open for that, because that's going to be playing here in a little bit. And if you want to be part of tonight's show, here's what you can do. Post your comments in these places right here. YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Twitter, and we will see them. And we will post them. As a matter of fact, let me open this here chat box. Okay, so we got, right here's one. Jerry Pay says it's 80 degrees down there. Don't brag, Jerry. Don't brag.
Yeah, he can brag when we get to the top 25 list, too, because I think he's doing pretty well this week.
Woo-hoo. All right.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, so Robert G. Williscroft, author of the Mac McDowell Mission series, the Orc Chronicles series, the Star Child Saga series, and a bunch of other cool stuff, too. He just did an appearance at Mile High Con. He was out there selling books with Alistair Mayer and signing autographs. And I like to picture him out there carnival barking in the aisleways trying to get Bill. Come on.
Step right on up. I got a book.
Yeah, see the lady with the hair coming out her nose. But at any rate, we haven't heard from him after the Mile High Con to see how he did. I'm confident that he did pretty well. Had a lot of fun, sold a few books, made a few contacts, but maybe he'll post something in the comments tonight letting us know how that went.
Yeah, and speaking of how things are going, this podcast is we've actually picked up a lot more viewers rather than listeners nowadays. Currently, we've got 5 people watching, which is kind of cool. We're just getting started, so and we'll see that number go up during the course of the show and go down and back up and down. It kind of ebbs and flows. But yeah, this is we're real not really surprised, but I mean we're proud of how this has taken off. It's the archives are doing well on YouTube and on the website. We're seeing numbers that are way bigger than they were before, or they're similar numbers, but it's happening quicker. And so, you know, if you want to know who's going to be on the show from week to week, or you want to know what books we got coming out, we've got a newsletter. And here is how you can subscribe to our newsletter. So let me get that there. And yeah, this newsletter, it keeps you up to date and everything going on in the world of Fresh Ink Group and Voice of Indie podcast and indie publishing and indie authors in general. We just try to support as many people as we can because they support us. So
yeah, that newsletter is where we do our world premieres of our new videos and trailers and things like that as well. Now, you'll see them for the first time on the podcast here, but that meant it was probably in the newsletter this morning anyway. So that's actually the world premiere, what happened this morning.
Yeah.
It's cool. Get in there and sign up for that. And
this
subscribe
is
to our YouTube channel.
Yeah,
Ooh.
YouTube. This is the big one here. We are trying to build something really big and cool over there on YouTube, and it's going slow. So get over there and subscribe, like the videos if you watch them. We got all of our past episodes, even the audio ones. They're all over there, but also the book trailers and some other stuff too. So get over there and check that out.
All righty. So, mermaid books. We've got mermaid books here. Mermaid Cove, Memes, Oracles, and Mermaid Art. This is by Dr. Maureen Howard. We have a whole bunch of these, and this is a very cool full color, premium color book with every page has mermaid art that was created for the Mardi Gras Festival down in Texas. And we wound up doing a whole bunch of these, and they wanted to change the paper, so I wound up with a box full of a different kind of paper, a slightly different kind of paper on these, which means I'm willing to give them away. So if you go over to freshinkgroup.com to the contact form, which is up there in the tabs, and say, hey, I'd like a mermaid book, and give us your info, I'll send you a free mermaid book. The first 5 people to ask for one can get a free mermaid book.
And here's a comment from Robert G. Williscroft. He said, not Mile High Con, Cosine Con in Colorado Springs. So,
right. But how did he do? How did he do?
How did you do? Yeah.
Yeah, Robert.
All right. So we're going to do the top 25 now.
Ooh, cool. I'm excited. Boom, 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 boom. All right. Starting at the bottom of the list in the number 25 slot, Nell Cooper, who's the author of Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow. This was her chapter book written for little girls. About 20-something years ago, we published this thing. Princess Lil, about a pony who's being bullied, by Nell Cooper. Number 25 on our list. Above that, The Chair, Volume 5 by Robert McKenzie. That's the 5th book in the Chair series. Janelle A. Jordan's Still Not Enough, Minority Millennials in the Workforce. This is the first book we published by her. Her second one is out now, and I think that's a little higher on the list. Tina Reese, Light in Darkness, Words and Poems of Encouragement. And then Andrew McGregor's How to Paint an American. What do you think of that book, Beem?
It's a good book. It's a fun read. It's a dangerous read, and pick it up. You'll enjoy it. Trust me, you'll enjoy it.
Ooh, Operation Ivy Bells, A Mac McDowell Mission by Robert G. Williscroft. That's the first mission, first book in the series. And it's also the first book in the series that was published. And it is still doing very well after all these years. Look at that. We got Ellie Collins up there with Daisy Bold and Beautiful. She wrote that book when she was 11 years old. It's a chapter book for young adults. And the first of 3 books. She wrote the second one at 12 and the third one at 13. Got some audiobooks for those, don't we, Beem?
Yes, we do. We got all 3 of them, and Ethan Drew did one of them, and just did an outstanding job with it. And he's an actual professional Hollywood actor, been in actual movies, big budget movies. So yeah, check him out.
The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip by Mark Herndon, Country Music Hall of Fame drummer who performed with the supergroup Alabama for nearly 3 decades. This is his tell-all memoir, and it's just a cool book. And I do want to mention that if you're a fan of Mark, if you're a fan of Alabama, you want to get yourself a copy of this book, but you like to have it inscribed and autographed by Mark, you can go to markherndon.com, order one directly from him, and his wife, country music star Leah Seawright, will make sure that that thing gets signed just the way you like and sent out to you. So that's The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip by Mark Herndon. Above that, we've got David Carroll, I Won't Be Your Scapegoat, David Carroll's homemade social media blunders. Now, I'm over here looking at some David Carroll books on the shelves there, and I see his Volunteer Bama Dog, which is just a fun look at life in the South, Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia, and the way people talk, the way they live. And it's an affectionate love letter, basically, about people in the South. And I'm looking at some of those books over there and thinking, if somebody went to freshinkgroup.com to the contact form and said, I'd like to check me out one of them David Carroll books, and gave me enough information to know where to send it, I'd send you one of these David Carroll books as well. So the first person to ask for a David Carroll book over at freshinkgroup.com contact form can get one of those free.
Look at that. Books flying off the shelves.
Flying off the shelves, I'm telling you. And then at the top of that list there in the number 11 slot, As We Remember, A History of the Women's Relief Corps in Beaufort, South Carolina. That's by Dr. Najma Thomas.
Very cool historical book, that one. Great
photos in there as well. Now, I'm just a major fan of Angie Birmingham. She's a professional photographer who takes pictures. I mean, she can take a picture of a piece of dust and make it look spectacular, bring it to life, blur the background, and just do some wonderful things. Journey Through the Lens, Creative Guide to Nature Photography is Angie teaching us how to do that, how to understand our cameras, how to set up our shots, and basically look professional and really turn out some nice photos. Angie also wrote the introduction for, he was 14 at the time, Braden Dexter Green's Trains of Alabama book as well. And he's a fan of hers and learned a lot about photography from her book as well. Now, I just mentioned Volunteer Bama Dog by David Carroll, and look at that. It's on the list, Beam. It's up there in the number 6, 7, 8, 9 slot. Volunteer Bama Dog by David Carroll. That's the one. If you get over to the contact form at freshinkgroup.com and ask for a free copy of that, I'll send you one, as long as you tell me where to send it. Operation Ivy Bells, a Mac McDowell mission by Robert G. Willis-Croft, is on the list again. So both the soft cover and the hard cover are up there in the top 12 or 13 or so. And that's doing pretty good for a novel. A.K. Wingler's How to Start and Run Your Own Food Truck Business in Florida, which is one of 3 food truck business books by her. And then there's Janelle A. Jordan again. The Reality of Interpersonal Leadership, A Guide to Leading Authentically. And you see there's a bronze star next to her book there. That means she's tied for 3rd with this professional development and prescriptive self-help book. Now, top 5. We got 2 more bronze stars tied for 3rd place. The Chair, Volume 5, Mitaka, All the Lamb, and All Attack. Now, congratulations, Robert McKenzie.
And speaking of Robert McKenzie here, he's just sent a little emoji of a chair.
Of a chair. Oh, at least he's consistent. But the chair books have always tended to kind of start just a little slow and build slowly and then get more and more popular. This one, I think it's really picking up its audience from the first 4 volumes, because this one's really shooting up faster than the first 4 did. So congratulations, Robert. Top 4. We're still tied for 3rd place with a bronze star for Mr. President, I've Got Your Back. The First Ladies of South Carolina State University by Abigail H. Ugini and Mary L. Smalls. Both of those women used to be First Ladies of South Carolina State University, and they tell all the stories and have all the photos. Now, top 3. We've got 2 that are tied for 2nd place. Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow by Nell Cooper, who also wrote that Princess Lil that was down in the number 25 slot. This novel is really, really doing well, and we're proud of Nell because she's really out there working it. She's making appearances. She's signing books. She's harassing the mailman. Anybody who will listen and look, she's telling them about her book, and they're buying it, and they're leaving reviews, and everybody's liking it, and they're spreading the word. Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow by Nell Cooper. Also tied for 2nd place with Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow is Submariner, 30 Years of Hijinks and Keeping the Fleet Afloat. And that's by retired U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander Jerry Pate, with an assist by Robert G. Willis-Croft. 60-chapter memoir, just full of cool stories about Navy life and dealing with submarines and crews and all the fun adventures that they go on. So that gets us to the number 1 slot. Beam, are you surprised to see Mark Herndon up in there again? That's
a popular book.
And that's our gold star for the week, our number 1 bestseller. And Beam, that's the hardcover edition of The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip. And when people spend a little bit extra money and get that hardcover, that means they consider it a quality book. A lot of times it's a gift, and it's something that they want to keep on the shelf and maybe take down and look at every now and then. So congratulations to everybody who made our top 25. The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip by Mark Herndon.
Yeah, and if you miss an episode of this show, or you want to go back to the audio podcasts, I checked, they're still, as far as I can see, they're still on Spotify and iHeartRadio right now. I don't know how long that's going to last. I think it's Friday is the end of Blog Talk Radio, so it may come down from those spots as well. But if you want to check out where our video podcasts are at, they're right here. And Now, as Stephen talked about a little while ago, hitting that tab to get your free books, if you want to get a free book, this is where you do it. Hit the contact form. You can contact us for the books, or you can, if you have like something you want to say to one of our guests, which you didn't get their contact info or whatever, you can hit that contact form. We'll send it along. Or if you just have something to say to us, shoot us a contact, and we're good with that. We can answer you and take care of all that good stuff.
Yeah, but if you speak in Russian, we're going to be suspicious.
Do svidaniya, my friend. How are you doing? Hello, Vladimir. All right, let's get to today. So are we going to do a video first, or are we going to just...
Yeah, go ahead, throw a commercial, and then let's meet today's guest.
All right, so how about if we take care of this one?
The body of Matt Carter lies in the stable, his head bashed, longish blonde hair splayed in a pool of blood. A lone horse stands guard over the victim, witness to a brutal murder, but unable to help solve the crime. Several suspects stand out, a number that grows as the investigation goes deep. 2 more murders appear to be linked. Chief Phil Swanson must unravel this complex mystery, rife with drug smuggling, a scandalous family secret, and betrayal at its worst. What criminal enterprise caught Matt in its web, and what did the horse see? Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats. Matt's Murder by Patricia A. Guthrie is a thriller with surprises at every turn. Gosh, if horses could only talk.
Boy, that horse knows something. You can look at his face and see that.
Yeah, he looks suspect to me. All right, so let's introduce tonight's guest. Karlyle Tomms grew up in rural Ozark poverty. He completed his master's degree in 1981. He has written for regional magazines and newspapers and is often invited to speak at both professional and non-professional events, as well as radio talk shows. However, he had never published fiction until his first novel in 2014. His general method for fiction has been to define a character and allow that character to tell his or her own story from a first person's perspective, as though the character is presenting an autobiography. Through his characters, he explores the psychology of the human condition, as well as the various elements and entanglements of personalities. Incorporating the social and historical influences surrounding his characters, Karlyle's stories explore overcoming social, emotional, and spiritual challenges. And with that, welcome to the show, Mr. Tomms.
Hi, guys.
Hey,
how
howdy.
you doing?
Going well, doing very well.
Well, we are glad to finally get you on the video podcast. We've had you on the audio several times, and now everybody
can see how beautiful I am.
There you go. So,
all right, well, let's do shirts. I'm doing John Batiste tonight.
This is my, that's not on there. This is my own design, certified member of the human race, deserving the same respect, honor, and dignity as every other member of the human race. I have those on the artwork tab on my website.
All right, which we'll point people to at the end of the show. I'm wearing Skid Row, so it's
There's a place for everything.
There's a place for everything. All right, so we'll jump into a couple of quick questions here. Now, I mentioned that you grew up in Ozark poverty. Where are you originally from, and where are you at now? Because
I'm in Corpus Christi, Texas now. I'm originally from a little podunk town just south of the Missouri border in the center of Arkansas. And it's about 10 miles from the Missouri border. And the biggest town in the county had a population of under 2,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've eaten muskrat.
No, we did not eat muskrat, but we did eat squirrel, fish eggs, crawdads, turtle.
All good stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Granny had a possum in the oven at one point, and I said, I hope you don't expect me to eat that greasy rat. It is not going to happen.
That was my grandfather. My grandfather, that's what he grew up eating. He was from Arkansas, grew up in the Ozarks, born in Missouri, but when he was young, moved to Arkansas, Mark Tree, Arkansas, way up in the mountains.
Yeah, I know where that is.
And he squirrel and raccoon and all that stuff. And while he was living up here in Lansing, Michigan, living right there in the city, he had a raccoon that kept getting into his garbage, and he was trying to trap it. And he said, when I trap it, he said, that's going in the oven. Ooh. And I'm like, oh, that's nasty. And he's like, if I cook it, didn't tell you what it is, you would eat it and you would love it. And I'm like, well, I'm not eating meat around here for a while.
when you're at that level of poverty, you eat whatever you can get.
But he wasn't even at poverty at this time, but he
was used to it.
Yeah. That's just
Anthony Bourdain, even when he had his show where he would go all over the place and eat everything, he went to the Ozarks.
Yeah.
For Daniel Woodrell.
Yeah.
We saw that.
And all that stuff.
Yeah.
Broke Daniel's shoulder.
Yeah. Then he was like, oh, I just broke my favorite author's shoulder because he fell in the boat. And so he had to leave the show early to go to the emergency room. Yeah, that was a good episode.
So what kind of a kid were you, Karlyle, growing up? Were you into reading and writing from an early age? Or you outdoorsy type?
I was. My Aunt Madge said she used to worry about me. I guess I was loud and rambunctious. There was a point when I was 10 or 12 years old, and they had those old wringer washers back then. I got my hand caught in the wringer washer while Granny was out hanging laundry, and I was screaming and screaming and screaming. She finally came in and popped it open. And I said, I was yelling for you. Why didn't you come? She said, you yell all the time. How am I supposed to know?
It's like people who ride their brakes.
Right.
How did I know he was going to press on that pedal? He's always on there. Armadillo is some on a half shell. Yeah, we've got armadillos around here, and it's just a nasty invasive species.
Cockroaches. My dad ate cockroaches. He was a prisoner of war in Japan in World War II. And that's one of the things that he ate to survive was cockroaches.
Well, I suppose if you dipped them in like chocolate, they might be all right. Chocolate makes everything better.
They tell me that they taste like shrimp. I haven't tried it.
Nasty.
Ew. Yeah, I know a couple of people who eat crickets, but I'm not doing that either.
All right. So now we know you went to college and all that. So where did you go to college? Where did you go to school at? And what did you study?
Well, I got an undergraduate degree in behavioral science from Lyon College in Batesville, Arkansas. And then I got a master's degree in clinical social work from University of Arkansas at Little Rock. Then I worked for 42 years as a clinical social worker.
42
What kind of
years.
clients?
Pardon?
What kind of clients? What was your pool?
Mental health and addictions.
Okay. For like private clinic or?
No, I had a private practice for a brief time in Nashville. And that all fell apart. And then I went home and back to the Ozarks, and I lived there 19 years before I moved down here.
So what was it that brought you to Texas? Was it just retirement? Getting away from the Ozarks?
Cold weather.
Yeah.
The Missouri winters were getting to the point that I just couldn't take it anymore. Plus, there are lots of ice storms that come through that area, and it's an amazing number of times that I've slipped and busted my butt on the ice. And yes, it used to be called AC, Melissa Hicks. It was AC when I was there.
What's AC stand for?
Arkansas College.
Arkansas
They changed the name because people thought it was a state school. It's a private Presbyterian college.
Okay. All right, Beem, you want to throw a commercial in there, like maybe knock out the Willis Croft one, which is a little bit lengthy, and then everybody, welcome aboard to the new video live stream Voice of Indie podcast. We've got Karlyle Tomms on there. Look at him; he's right there. He's right there,
and he's got a cool shirt on that you can order.
So after this commercial, we'll be back talking to Karlyle.
All right, we're gonna do the Willis Croft. You said,
yeah.
All right.
This is world premiere, people. World, call everybody into the room. Now's your chance.
Here we go.
Now, the Star Child saga by Robert G. Williscroft continues. In Book 1, Slingshot, 3 scientist engineers reach for the stars as they blend their skills with a host of skilled colleagues to create the world's first space launch loop. A team of young eco-terrorists will go to any length to halt the project. One woman is determined to scoop the story, reporting events to a watching world. Slingshot ranges from Seattle's financial district to the ocean bottom off Baker Island, to the edge of space, and across the vast panorama of an equatorial Pacific. It's a love story, a gender bender, and a mystery about a missing aviatrix, a conspiracy, and a true believer. It's about high finance, intrigue, heroism, fanaticism, betrayal, and humanity's surge into outer space. In Book 2, The Daedalus Files, Tiger Bailey, irreverent member of the Navy SEALs Winged Insertion Command, tests a new Griffin 7 hard-shell wingsuit. He makes a harrowing first experimental base jump from the edge of space, the Fred Noonan Skyport, 80,000 meters above Jarvis Island in the equatorial Pacific. Tiger's target, which he must reach to survive, is Kiritimati Island, a tiny, isolated atoll 379 kilometers northeast of Jarvis, over ever-threatening and oh-so-deep ocean waters. In the Daedalus Files, Tiger and his squad find themselves using their wingsuits in real combat. In Book 3, The Starchild Compact, an international team ventures to Saturn's moon Iapetus to verify it really is a derelict starship. They discover the founders, descendants of the starship's builders who arrived in our solar system 150,000 years ago. Together with the founders, the explorers advance founder science with momentous implications for the entire solar system, paving the way for a joint push to the distant reaches of the galaxy. But a Persian Caliphate stowaway sabotages the mission, hoping to destroy science that he believes violates Islam. The Starchild Compact blends tomorrow's science with human foibles, fears, beliefs, and political intrigue, speculating on how civilization might develop while traveling on a generational starship, and how modern humans might interact with remnants of that civilization. In Book 4, the Iapetus Federation, besieged Israelis on Earth make their way to Mars as the Federation expands throughout the solar system. While global jihad rages on Earth, putting millions to the sword, the Starchild Institute develops wormhole transportation. But will this new technology be ready in time to rescue all that is left of the United States, the beleaguered Lone Star Conservancy, and remnants of other cultures around the globe? From hand-to-hand combat in the oceans, to battles on Earth's surface, to struggles in interplanetary space, our heroes fight to survive and expand to the far reaches of the universe. Robert G. Williscroft is an adventurer, polar explorer, deep-sea diver, nuclear submariner, scientist, and best-selling, award-winning author. His stories portray the accurate science and precise engineering that appeals to hard science fiction buffs. But the Starchild saga is for everyone who loves an epic tale, a grand journey by men and women who loom larger than life as they work, play, and love. Make the Starchild saga your own with individual hardcover, softcover, audiobook, and all major ebook editions worldwide, or collect the entire set for one epic journey. By Robert G. Williscroft, The Starchild Saga.
All right.
Yeah. That was
It's a long
world,
one.
people.
That's an epic book trailer there.
Yeah. Now it was freezing up on my end. I hope it's going out pretty smoothly for everybody else. Somebody wants to let us know in the comments. Are those videos?
Yeah, it looked good on this side. And usually when I'm playing them through my Wi-Fi, they tend to freeze up on here, so I have to pay attention. Like sometimes I have Steven wave at me to let me know we're getting near the end. But I'm running this whole show through my phone as a hotspot tonight, and man, the phone is actually better than my Wi-Fi.
Wow, that's
Go figure.
All right, well, we're talking to Karlyle Tomms, author of a whole bunch of cool books and some poetry and some prose and stuff like that. Karlyle, tell us about your writing process. We haven't argued over being a pantser or a plotter with anybody lately. Let's argue about that. How's your style?
The novels I write as though I am the protagonist and I'm telling the story. So they're all written from first-person perspective. The Calling Dream is written from first-person perspective of this man who he becomes. He grows up in northern Arkansas just like I did, and gee, I guess I can describe that in detail.
Been there, done that, huh?
He becomes a famous televangelist and has all kinds of problems. And then the Edge of Smoke is the next book. And that is from the perspective of a transgender child growing up in the slums of Pruitt-Igoe in Missouri in St. Louis in the 1970s. And her struggles. And then the book Sunrise Over the Pumpkin Patch is about this promiscuous, rebellious girl who's trying to get away from her mother, and she meets this hippie, and at first she thinks he's ugly, but he wins her over, and then they run off to the Summer of Love in San Francisco, and she gets pregnant with a biracial child, and all kinds of stuff happen after that.
So these are things that you plot out, you outline these?
I don't plot them out. I just sit down and let the protagonist tell the story. I tried for years to write novels and write them from third person. And I tried plotting them out. I tried doing all kinds of things and I couldn't make it work. But when I just simply let this entity talk through me, it worked.
It works. So do you go back and wind up editing that a lot, taking pieces out?
I do some, yeah. Typically what I'll do is I'll write a chapter, and then after I write the chapter, I'll go back through and I'll see if there's grammar that needs to be corrected. I'll see if there is a sentence that I want to reword in a certain way, or take this out, plug that in. But the chapter itself, it generally holds. There was, when I was writing Sunrise, I wrote like 2 chapters and then backed up and said, no, we're not going that way, backed all the way up and then started again. So I did that. And then my latest book, The Gulls Are Always Laughing, the gay man's journey to healing and spirituality. That's my story, and it's written in prose and poetry, and so I'm writing it from first person perspective as me.
Yeah,
that
it was written over time too, right?
Yeah,
I went back. I initially I got the idea when I first moved to Texas. I had a horrible move down here, and one of the things that I did in high school was I wrote poetry to deal with my feelings and my emotions and all kinds of things that I was going through. Growing up in the 1960s in rural Arkansas in a fundamentalist church, gay, was not an easy task to accomplish.
You don't recommend it, huh?
I don't recommend it.
No.
And so I went back because I had written at that time, and I picked out some of those poems. I had this record book that I had written poetry in, handwritten, and I still have it after all of these years. And I went through and picked out poetry from that to use in this book. But initially, I went back to writing poetry when I moved to Texas because it helps me. It's one of my happiness tools.
Yeah.
and it helps me to be able to deal with what's going on. I was really frustrated and pissed off when I first moved here.
Texas will do that.
The gulls are always laughing is because I was lucky enough that the rat-infested, crappy apartment that I ended up in when I moved here, because I was lied to by the management company, and there's several factors. It's a very long story, but it happened to be across the street from a park and a beach. And so I would come home from work and I would go across the street to the beach, and I noticed that the gulls sounded like they were laughing.
Mm-hmm. They were laughing at you.
They probably were. I hadn't spent that much time around gulls or by the ocean. And when I moved, I'd never been here before. I didn't know anyone here. And so I was alone and on my own, so kind of starting over at 60 years old. And the laughter of the gulls made me realize that, you know, life is too important to be taken seriously, to quote Oscar Wilde. And so I began writing about that also.
Cool. Well,
All right.
why don't we go ahead and play the trailer for that, Beam, and
Yeah.
see what this thing is.
The gulls are always laughing. All right, here we go.
The Gulls Are Always Laughing by Karlyle Tomms is poetry about transition from trauma and turmoil through relationships to spirituality and the ability to laugh at one's troubles. We have all fought through anguish, hopefully to become better citizens. The poetry covers Karlyle's formative years, growing up with abuse on a farm in the Ozarks, his adult relationships, and his transition to life on the shores of the coastal bend of Texas. He bears his heart and soul on these pages, but he hopes to bear witness to there being a better way, and it is always possible to overcome and rise above. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group. The Gulls Are Always Laughing is available in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats at your favorite retailers worldwide. The Gulls Are Always Laughing by Karlyle Tomms.
All right.
So is there some stuff in there that was kind of hard to write, or was it fairly lighthearted?
There were some things, and you know, I've struggled. You know, I was abused when I was a kid. I was abused at home. I had an alcoholic uncle who was physically abusive to me and verbally abusive. And then I was bullied at school. So the first part of this they're sort of therapy poems. And I introduce each poem telling where it came from, why, and what was going on at the time that poem was written or what it's about. The first section is poetry about my childhood that I wrote as an adult, kind of processing that whole thing. You know, one of them starts out with, "I learned to fight when I was young."
Yeah.
You know, and so it's about surviving. When I got to college, there were people there were mentors there, loving, kind, wise people who saw through the anger and saw there was still a heart beneath that anger, and they helped me to begin to transition out of that turmoil from my childhood. The second part of the book is some of that poetry was written when I was as young as 13 years old, and some of it's just wordplay. And some of it goes up through college and just after college. And so that section stops there. The third section is relationships, love and lovers, and experience with relationships as a gay man. And then the last part is spirituality and, you know, coming to that point, that self-love journey that many people have to go on. And so those are the primary four sections of the book there. And the last poem in the book is "The Gulls Are Always Laughing." That I'm going to learn how to laugh. I'm going to learn how to lighten up and to let life be life.
You feel like you're there, or is it still an ongoing process?
Well, of course, it's an ongoing process. You know, I'll be 99 years old on my deathbed and go, dang, I didn't get it.
Yeah, I say that I'll be 100 years old and still be looking for the answers.
Right. But, you know, I'm a whole lot further along than I used to be. I love myself. I'm happy with myself. I'm open. And, you know, I've reached a point in which I think that I can teach a lot of wisdom. You know, and the epilogue of this book, too, part of this is it's for people who aren't gay to understand what the journey is like and what that feels like. But it's also for people who are gay who can relate to it. And one of the things that I kind of want to do is to show gay youth. There are a couple of programs. The Trevor Project is in LA, and it's a suicide hotline for gay youth. And then there's another program called It Gets Better. And that is for kids who hate themselves because society tells them they're supposed to. Learn how to love themselves and to be an example that it really does get better if you do the internal work, if you don't check out. You know, suicide rate among gay kids is like 4 times higher than the national average. And when I was 16 years old in that little country church, the minister who baptized me said, quote, "The sin of homosexuality is worse than the sin of murder." And what do you think that does to a 16-year-old kid's head? You know, and you think I never met anybody like me. I knew what I was feeling. I knew I couldn't change it. And so if I'm worse than a murderer, do I need to just go ahead and end it? You know, if I'm worse than a murderer, what would they do if they found out? You know, would I be, you know, Matthew Shepard had not occurred at that time. And so it's either you keep it a secret and you're invisible and you pretend like you don't exist, or you kill yourself. That's kind of the choice there.
Yeah. Suicide, that's never the answer. As they say, it's a solution to a temporary problem.
Well, you know, like I said earlier, that I had a 42-year career as a mental health social worker. And so as it started in college with these mentors, these loving mentors. And I'd had a high school counselor who he didn't know that he inspired me. And we never talked about it, but he inspired me. And so the first thing that I did when I got to college is I went straight to the campus counseling center and said, sign me up. And I began therapy at 18 years old when that did not exist where I was from. And the only place that I can think of where I got the idea for that was that high school counselor who I admired and respected. And then I had friends there who were loving people who, you know, and the people who brought me out of this initially were all straight. They were all heterosexual people who did not try to change me, did not try to make me be something else, and who encouraged me to love myself as I am. So when I went to graduate school and I learned how to do therapy, I was still in the process of learning my own journey to self-healing. But I learned how to do therapy. And part of that is, you know, they say we teach best what we most need to learn. And, you know, the majority of my clients over the years were not gay. The majority of my clients were people who, because of trauma, because of various other things that had happened to them in their lives, hated themselves. I once said years into my career that if I could just drill a hole in people's head and pour in self-esteem, I'm a billionaire. Because there's so many reasons why people decide I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
It occurred to me that true self-esteem is the recognition of your exact equality to everyone, no matter what. There is no one on this planet, no matter who they are or what they think, who is better than me. There is no one on this planet, no matter who they are or what they think, who is worth less than me.
Yeah.
Each of us are the best. Me.
Yeah.
I'm the best me. There's nobody else that can be a better me. There's nobody else who can be a better Karlyle or Stephen. I mean, we're the only copy.
Yep.
Yeah. What bothers me about that preacher's message when you were 16, even being a murderer, that's about what you did. And he was talking about who you are.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just a whole different thing. It's not what you do. It doesn't matter what you do. It's who you are. And if who you are is worse than the worst thing somebody can do, what kind of message is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a horrible message. That's
the thing is too, with the current political atmosphere and how trans people are being targeted when they make up less than 1% of the population, are being targeted and abused, and they're already at the bottom rung of society in terms of being the most oppressed.
Hmm.
And then, the Trevor Project, I'd gotten an email from them recently that said since the election, their calls had multiplied by 700%.
Wow.
Gay kids who are scared to death calling in, because they think that the society is going to come after them. And, Hitler did it. There were gay people who went to the gas chambers just like Jewish people did.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of fear there that it was there before. And we were making some progress in terms of society saying, who you are is who you are. And there are so many gay people who are respectful, honorable, ethical people. And society needs to wake up to that fact that who I am doesn't change my ethics. It doesn't change my spirituality.
Exactly. All right. Well, we're using up the time here pretty quickly, so we're going to play your other 3 book trailers one at a time and let you do some quick hits. Tell us the short version of what that book is about and why we're interested in it.
Okay.
Are you there, Beem? Did we lose Beem? Wow. Let's see
He
if I can.
was using the hotspot, so he might have.
I'm going to try this one. Let's see if I can play The Calling Dream. Oh, that's the book title. Let's see where the video is. I don't even see them in here.
Well, if you want, I can just talk a little bit about them as they come
Yeah.
up.
Why don't you tell us about The Calling Dream, and I'll see.
The Calling Dream is this son of a backwoods preacher from Arkansas, and his father is kind of rigid and abusive. And you see on the cross, that's not Jesus. That's actually a woman on the cross. And that symbolizes his sacrifice of women to his lust, because he has a problem. He ends up becoming a famous televangelist, but his problem is that he's a sex addict and he hates himself for it. He hides it from his wife and his children and his friends, and it's certainly his congregation and his following. And he eventually comes to a point where he's at a breaking point. And if he doesn't figure this out, if he doesn't get hold of himself and address his behavior, he's going to go under.
Okay. And then that was followed by Edge of Smoke, which is a sequel to The Calling Dream.
Right. And it's kind of a sequel because the triggering event for Pastor Dennison in The Calling Dream was that the church in St. Louis has this child. The child, her mother was murdered a year earlier. Her mother was a heroin addict, and she was murdered, and Stephanie walked in to find her mother murdered. Her mother had pimped her out to this man, and she ends up in foster care, Christian foster care, and separated from the only person who ever loved her and accepted her. And that was her friend, Miss Maddie, who was an old Creole woman who lived up the hall. And so they call Pastor Dennison in to try to convince this boy that he's not a girl, and he needs to accept the fact that he's a boy. And Pastor Dennison has done healings in the church and stuff like that. So what happens actually, there's a scene there where Stephanie pulls out a tube of lipstick and puts it on. She stole the tube of lipstick from her foster mother, and this freaks Pastor Dennison out, and it becomes the initial trigger for him having to deal with his stuff. So then Stephanie goes on to tell her story in this book. So Stephanie ends up, Pastor Dennison feels sorry for her and leaves a trust. And Miss Maddie ends up dying when Stephanie's 17, and she gets control of the trust. She uses that to have transition surgery and lives stealth as a woman. Nobody knows that she's transgender. And this young man, she works as a bartender, and this young man comes in and starts wooing her. And initially it's like, I don't know, no. You don't know what you're getting into. And she wouldn't have anything to do with him, but he wouldn't let go. And he finally wins her over. They fall in love, and he finds out that she's transgender, and he initially has a problem with it, but then he decides, you know what? I love you. I loved you before I knew. I love you now. And I still want to be with you. But then she runs into the man who her mother pimped her out to as a kid. And she remembers her childhood pledge that if she ever saw him again, she would murder him. She would kill him. And she thinks that she's going to protect other children by doing that. But she ends up risking everything because she decides she wants to kill this man who is a perpetrator of abuse.
Wow. Wow. I'm going to see if I can play the videos for those first two there, see if this works. If so, we'll do that and we'll come back for Pumpkin Patch.
Okay.
In 1945, 10-year-old Ronald Dennison, the son of a backwoods Arkansas preacher, began having profound dreams about religion and a strange red-haired woman. The dreams follow him for decades, with the woman sometimes seducing him, other times calling him to become a televangelist, but eventually berating him for his sins of lust. She holds a secret so dark that he dares never admit it, even to himself. The more famous and wealthier he becomes, the more he struggles with his adultery, his fetish, and his shame, until his torment can no longer be contained. Staggering revelations challenge everything he ever believed. Will truth bring him the peace he always craved? Or will the woman's demands prove more than he can bear? Read the novel The Calling Dream by Karlyle Tomms. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group in hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats. The Calling Dream by Karlyle Tomms. In the Pruitt-Igoe slums of St. Louis in the 1960s, a heroin addict mother breaks her son's dolls and screams, "You are not a girl." However, no one can convince Stephanie to live as Stephen. Her mother pimps her out to a man who rapes and takes pictures of her. After finding her mother brutally murdered, she is placed in Christian foster care, where they also try to convince her to accept being male. Her mother's lover is sentenced to life in prison for the murder. Author of widely praised The Calling Dream, Karlyle Tomms brings back famed televangelist Pastor Ronald Dennison in this unflinching sequel, Edge of Smoke. Dennison sets up a trust that allows a compassionate old neighbor to adopt Stephanie out of foster care. Still, she is violently bullied at school for identifying as female. The trust pays for transition surgery at 18, and she begins to live fully as a woman. Frightened by men, she remains a virgin until she falls in love with Jordan. But she runs into the man who abused her and remembers her childhood pledge to kill him. Will her lust for murdering the man who brutalized her as a child cause her to lose the man she loves? Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, The Calling Dream, and now Edge of Smoke can be found anywhere and shipped everywhere in jacketed hardcover and softcover editions, or downloaded in all ebook formats. Edge of Smoke by Karlyle Tomms.
All right, we are talking to Karlyle Tomms and our co-host Beem Weeks, who does not look like a triangle over a black background. Apparently has lost his signal. So wait a minute, I see him in the little window. Can we get you back in here, Beem? Let's see here what's happening. Turn that camera on. Trying to get you in here, Beem. Okay, well, while we try to figure out where Beem is, because he's in a little window over here. Oh, we've lost him again. He's having signal problems today. Again, we're talking to Karlyle Tomms, and we're up to the book Sunrise Over the Pumpkin Patch. So I'm going to go ahead and play the trailer for that, Karlyle, and then ask you to tell us a little bit more about that one, which is, where is it here? Right there.
It's 1967, and promiscuous small-town girl Lavella can't wait to get away from her controlling mother to make her own life. She hooks up with Earl, an ugly hippie, rebelling against his rich father. At a time of severe racial tensions and the burgeoning civil rights movement, Earl whisks her off to San Francisco to experience the summer of love. Acid trips, a gay love affair, and deep betrayal eventually lead to Lavella's pregnancy with a biracial child that Earl will accept, but which Earl's father won't. Lavella quickly discovers there is more to her mother's control than she ever could have imagined. Sunrise Over the Pumpkin Patch is a rich family saga by Karlyle Tomms, author of The Calling Dream and Edge of Smoke. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, Sunrise Over the Pumpkin Patch is available worldwide in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats.
Okay, we're talking to Karlyle Tomms. This is a fun book. We definitely enjoyed working on this.
It's much lighter than the others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's it about besides what we just heard?
Yeah, this actually was my first novel, and that was published in 2014. And this is a revision of that novel. It's the same story, but I've learned a lot since 2014. And there were things I went in and I changed here and there, and portions of chapters that I took out, different things like that. It's the same story. But when Lavella gets pregnant with this biracial child, then she and Earl end up coming back home, and she has this baby. Initially, when she has the baby, she does not know if the child is biracial. And there's a scene in the hospital where she's had the baby. The baby's been taken to the nursery, and Earl has seen the baby, but she hasn't. And she asked, "Does the baby look like me?" And Earl tells her how much the child looks like her. And then she said, "How much does she look like you?" And Earl said, "She doesn't look like me at all." And then she knew that her child was biracial. She has fears that her mother's racism will come into play here. And she has to deal with her own indoctrinated racism that she grew up with. But Earl's father is the one who throws the biggest fit about her having this child. Then when the child is only a few days old, she's sitting at home with the baby, and the news comes on, and Walter Cronkite gives the news that Dr. Martin Luther King has been assassinated in Memphis. And this throws her into this emotional frenzy that, I have this child, and are people going to kill me or kill my child just because of the color of the child? And they end up moving to Nashville. And there's a situation in Nashville where she's bored and she's trying to become a member of a women's club. And they ask her to see a picture of her baby, and she passes it around, and there's this just very, very subtle, snide racism comments and undercurrent. And she has a talk with the person who has become her maid, because Earl has now accepted his father's wealth and they are doing well. And her maid tells her, "You're new at this. Black people have been dealing with this for 400 years. You're new at this," and begins to help her to understand racism and help her to learn to accept. There's a line in that particular scene in which she said, "I think the only thing worse than being a Black person in the South is being a white person with a biracial child."
Wow.
And so that's the orient to that. But it's also about her relationship with her mother, and that strained relationship all throughout the book, and finally discovering that there's more to her mom than she realized.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Great. Okay, we're talking to Karlyle Tomms. We're still missing our co-host, who's out there probably doing this right now, but as long as he's having fun. We're going to play one more commercial here for an Ash Looney book, and then we're going to come back and wrap things up with Karlyle Tomms. So remember, people, you can participate, post your comments. I'm not quite sure where they are, but I think we can find them here somewhere. And let's play another trailer.
Every person has a private life and a secret self. This is true of those we know and people we only know because they are famous. Discover fascinating, intimate, clever, witty, poignant, insightful tales from a diverse roster of notable women who dare reveal both the unknown and the previously undisclosed. But these are not gossipy tales. No, they are personal, anecdotal, always meaningful stories for quiet reading, sharing aloud, even performing from the stage. Compiled by Detroit playwright J. Ajluni, Whoopi Likes Her Bacon Crispy, 65 fascinating excerpts from the memoirs of famous and infamous women is illustrated with whimsical portraits that capture these remarkable celebrities at their best. Choose your own from laminate hardcover, softback, and digital editions, all proudly published by Fresh Ink Group. Come away with a richer appreciation of these talented women, and smile for permitting them to entertain you in unexpected and delightful ways.
All right, we're talking to Karlyle Tomms, author of The Calling Dream, Edge of Smoke, Sunrise Over the Pumpkin Patch, and The Gulls Are Always Laughing. Plus, what's next, Karlyle?
Well, can I plug the fact that I converted Edge of Smoke into a screenplay? I adapted it into a screenplay, and my adaptation is a semifinalist in the Santa Barbara Palm Springs Diversity screenwriting competition. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, congratulations, definitely. So you do some speaking and make appearances and whatnot too.
Yes.
We're interested in meeting you and throwing tomatoes at you. How do we do that?
I'm represented by BJB Presents, and if you want to book me for speaking engagements, I'm also an actor. You can contact my agent, Betty Butler, at bjbpresents@gmail.com, or call her at 334-510-0003.
All right. Now, how do people find you, contact you, follow you, send you threatening notes, whatever? You got a website, you got a blog, you got
KarlyleTomms.com, KarlyleTomms.com, and there's several things on my website. And I have a social media presence with several different things. I probably use Instagram more than anything else. And I'll do little videos there, and I do videos on YouTube, and not YouTube. I do have some videos on YouTube, but I'll generally do videos on TikTok.
Yeah.
And I write a little mini blog almost every day on Instagram.
Cool. All right. You got any parting advice for authors out there in the audience?
Keep writing.
Keep writing.
I was 58 years old before I finished my first novel.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Just keep doing it.
Yeah. And here's your bonus question. Who's your favorite publisher?
You are.
All right. Fresh Ink Group. All right. Well, we've had fun talking to Karlyle Tomms today, everybody. We lost co-host Beem Week somewhere in the middle of the snowstorm up there. But please keep coming back. Subscribe to that newsletter. Follow that YouTube channel. We just get excited when that happens. And then next week, we're going to have B.A. Johnson. She's the author of 3 children's chapter books, illustrated chapter books, and she's working on more. And then after that, we're going to have Marcia Fox. She has finished the Dead Canyon series. We had her on the audio podcast about 1.5 years ago with her co-author, Native American Pete Risingson. And they finally finished that trilogy. We're going to have Marcia on to talk about that. David Carroll, who I mentioned, hey, I'll send you a copy of his book, Volunteer Bama Dog, if you're the one who goes over there and asks for it and gives me the right info at the contact form. And then after that, we've got Angie Birmingham, the professional photographer who wrote Journey Through the Lens. So we're looking forward to that as well. So again, thanks for being on the show, Karlyle.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll be seeing you around. Audience, we're going to play one more trailer on our way out before our closing. Again, thanks for the support. Thanks for spreading the word. Thanks for participating tonight, everybody, and we'll see you next time. All right, now let's see if we can find that trailer. This is going to be Redemption by Gwen M. Plano. See you next time, everybody.
Family secrets can be deadly. When Lisa visits her parents one fateful Saturday morning, she hugs her father and takes her suitcase to her childhood bedroom. The doorbell rings, and 1 minute later, her father lies dead on the floor, 3 bullets to the chest. The death of Eric Holmes sends shockwaves throughout the quiet neighborhood. But for the Holmes family, it's devastating. In this fast-paced psychological thriller, Lisa and her brother embark on a quest to solve the mystery of their father's murder. The journey takes them into a secret world where nothing is as it seems. Once the puzzle pieces begin to coalesce, they realize that their father had multiple lives. As the facts unravel, the siblings discover the true meaning of redemption. Gwen M. Plano's Redemption is available worldwide in softcover, jacketed hardcover, and all ebook formats. Published proudly by Fresh Ink Group. Redemption by Gwen M. Plano.
You've been a part of Voice of Indie, a production of Fresh Ink Group. Spread the word, support our guests, then find us at freshinkgroup.com and be sure to hashtag